Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to an all-new Nevada Newsmakers. Filling in for Sam Shad, I'm Mike Draper. Our guest today is political science professor Fred Lokken from TMCC. We're going to be talking about the 2024 election, the 2025 legislative session, and everything in between. Stay tuned.
Here on 7 at 7, we're bringing you the local headlines in just 7 minutes.
We've got you covered in the morning, evening, and for all breaking news in between and as it happens.
Life is busy, and we don't waste your time. Join us for local news now streaming on our YouTube page.
I'm Mike Swanson, and welcome to the Winnemucca Big R.
Hi, I'm John Walker. Welcome to Big R Lovelock.
Hi, I'm Rich Martin. Welcome to Fallon Big R.
My name is Braden. Welcome to Big R Fernley.
Hi, I'm Kelly. Welcome to Big R Sparks.
Welcome to the Ahern Boutique Hotel, where luxury and warmth come together in the heart of Las Vegas.
We take pride in offering a one-of-a-kind experience for both locals and tourists.
Join us for handcrafted cocktails and an unforgettable experience.
Joel's Chop House, the perfect place to savor views of the Las Vegas Strip.
Satisfy your cravings at the Ahern Chocolate Shop.
No smoking, no resort fees, and the parking is always free. The Ahern Luxury Boutique Hotel is your home away from home.
For 50 years, Nevada Heating has been keeping people comfortable in their homes. At Nevada Heating, call the Do It Right guys and get the heat back on today. Call us today and we'll fix it today. That's the Nevada Heating way. Why freeze for days on end when Nevada Heating can get your furnace fixed today? Call us today and we'll fix it today at 323-5585 or schedule us on our website at nevadaheating.com.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
Welcome to an all-new Nevada Newsmakers. Filling in for Sam Shad, I'm Mike Draper. I'm here today with Fred Lokken, a professor of political science at Truckee Meadows Community College. Fred, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mike.
Fred, we're on the heels, still a month off of a rather notable election for many reasons. I'm curious, first and foremost, what lessons do you think we can learn as Nevadans from the 2024 election cycle?
Well, and that's a very good question, because I think it's different at every level of the political environment based on this election result. In Nevada, there was a lot of, I think, confusion after the election as the results were reported. But for the most part, what we are always reminded is, first, don't trust the polls. Nevada is probably one of the hardest states in the union to poll. We want to rely on them, but they're pretty meaningless. They aren't conducted properly. They have never understood Nevada and its voters, and so I think often wind up talking to the wrong people. They talk to people who aren't voting instead of people who are. But the takeaway is that it wasn't an earthquake for Nevada. It was a really fascinating election that's unlike most elections we followed. For instance, we did not have any shirt tail effect for any of the candidates or issues. The Democrats anticipated that the abortion issue would bring Democrats out in droves. It did not, and when they showed up to vote for the abortion issue, they didn't vote for anything else. The issue of the top of the ballot, you had Trump that was able to carry the state, but it did not help Brown. Rosen did a fine job, basically doing the retail politics that work in the state of Nevada. The other thing to know is that we spend way too much money, and most of it's for negative advertising in Nevada, and I know that Nevadans are getting sick with it. But the biggest takeaway so far is the sheer number of Nevadans that stayed home. And what was there about the election that it was poised to be yet another election of the century, and we had both nonpartisans and Democrats stay home. Republicans showed up in greater numbers. They've done better in registration, but there are a lot more Democrats out there. They just didn't vote this time.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. So obviously we've seen a significant increase in Republican registration. We've, it's been this story for now several years. We've seen a significant increase in the rise of independent and nonpartisan registration. Do you think Nevada's firmly cemented as a purple state? Are there things that we should be reading into that? If you were an elected official, what would you be reading into that?
Well, I think on the Democratic side, legendary ground game, but that wasn't enough. The ground game apparently did not include a really aggressive registration drive. The Republicans, who have been sort of disorganized for at least a decade in the state, did get a registration drive going, and it was a very effective one, but didn't have a ground game. So in this election, the registration process seemed to work better than the ground game. So I think everybody has to look at that going forward. I don't know that it tells us anything, but we should be aware of that anomaly. But I think it gets down to the issue of the candidates that are on the ballot, how well informed the voters are. I think for a lot of Democrats, if we look back at the national ticket, the vice president is not that well known in this administration. She suddenly breaks out because of Biden pulling out at the end of June, puts together a phenomenal fundraising campaign. There's a lot of enthusiasm, but at the end of the day, 2/3 of the voters didn't know her. And 2/3 of the voters were on the economic issue, and the Democrats did not own the economic issue. And 2/3 of the voters, in essence, were looking for change. They wanted change. And so it was the wrong ticket for the Democratic Party. To think that a black woman in a country that still demonstrates glass ceilings and a degree of racism and gender discrimination was going to win the White House was higher reach than the Democrats wanted to acknowledge. And doing it in that truncated form it turned out to be all the factors that added up to their defeat. But it doesn't spell a great victory for the Republicans either. This is a personality. This is the last term for this personality. This party is going to be facing a battle for who replaces Donald Trump, who may not and often does not have the same level of appeal that the personality had. For the Democrats, they have a crisis of leadership going forward, both nationally. Here in the state, I think they're going to turn to those who have won their re-elections for that. But I don't know that we can take away a whole lot of information for 2026 or beyond.
What about the role of independents and nonpartisans? Obviously, those numbers are growing. Some of that is attributed to, of course, automatic voter registration. But it seems to me that that would indicate that there's a disconnect between the two political parties and a lot of the citizenry.
I deal with a lot of unhappiness with students. I got to tell you that they don't like the two-party system. They don't like the quality of the candidates. They don't understand why they're not talking about the issues that matter. And I could talk to any age group and find that exact same discontent. So yes, the Republican Party has a problem because it's become more of a party of personality. There's a great argument about exactly what the Republican Party stands for. It's not Reagan's party anymore. But what exactly are the issues? They don't seem to fit as tidily. On the Democratic side, what is the next generation going to stand for? What are going to be the important issues? But for the very large nonpartisan, it really is sitting home. So it's disgruntled with the two-party system. The ballot 3, the ranked choice voting was really an attempt to disrupt that. But a lot of people are skeptical of that as well. So they're kind of trapped because they don't like the quality of candidates. They don't like the issues. They'd like more choice, but they don't want to throw a grenade into the process either. So they're going to have to find out a way by which they go back to the basics and reconnect with voters. And we all have to understand on both sides of the equation how to attach ourselves to these nonpartisans because they're going to be harder to get out. We learned that lesson. They didn't vote a lot for the Republicans either.
Fred, we're going to come back and keep talking about that. I appreciate having you on today. We'll be back on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Story County is leading Nevada. Home of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, Google, Tesla, Panasonic, and other world-leading companies. Story County provides thousands of tech, advanced manufacturing, and logistics careers for Nevadans. We're diversifying and driving Nevada's economy and generating millions in tax revenue and billions in economic activity across northern Nevada. Story County is leading Nevada's future.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
We're back on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers, filling in for Sam Shad. I'm Mike Draper. Our guest today is Fred Lokken, professor of political science at Truckee Meadows Community College. Fred, before the commercial, we were talking about the lessons we could learn from this past election. I'm wondering, it seems to me that we're seeing an increasing crisis of trust from the American public and its political leaders. And it seems that that's why we see a rise in independent or nonpartisan voters. We see less voter turnout, as you had mentioned. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's at the core, it's a crisis of trust?
Well, trust and dissatisfaction. And the national poll data I often share with my students is just bewildering. At this point in time, if you had asked if someone supports fascism in America, poll data as recently as 10 years ago would have been less than 1%. Now, part of the problem is you don't ask about fascism. People don't know what that term represents. So you describe what it would look like. And it was rejected by 99% of the participants in our survey 10 years ago. 20% liked the idea in 2024. The notion of wanting change has probably, we've had this in cycles in American history. We are at a near pinnacle of a serious desire for it to be different. People look at the national debt, it doesn't make sense. The gridlock in Washington doesn't make sense. The quality of our leadership, its ethical and moral integrity has more than dissipated. It seems to be gone. It's lying's okay. What's ever happened in a life doesn't matter. We don't have any anchors in this process. So the dissatisfaction and the factor of trust is that we frankly don't have the quality of leadership in 2024 that we maybe had 30 or 40 years ago. And older voters know that. Younger voters just don't want to be a part of the process. They find it dirty. It's disgusting. They don't want to follow news. Another problem that runs right parallel with us is the media and where we get our information. We have an older generation that gets it from an area that's dying, and we get a newer generation that gets it only from social media. But the social media is rampant with misinformation and with disinformation and with false information, and under the circumstances, they're believing it. And that's allowing for a lot of turmoil in our politics back in the day when we had a more fundamental structured media source and had greater trust in that. It was easier for voters, but now they don't know what to believe.
Well, I'm glad you touched on that. Looking ahead at the 2025 legislative session here in Nevada, obviously around the country and in the state, but around the country, we're seeing more political divide, and at least on the volatility of that political divide on a greater level than we've seen at least in the last decade or two. What role, how do you think that political divide will impact the Nevada legislative session, especially going into a cycle where we're going to have all the constitutional offices up for re-election.
Exactly. The session coming into the state election is always more politicized just by nature. And we did see in the last session that it was strongly ideological. Governor Lombardo's State of the State was one of the most ideological State of the State addresses I've seen in my 33 years in the state. The reality of that, of course, when you have such a democratic control of both chambers, is to immediately guarantee that this is going to be a very ideological exchange. And it resulted in some 77 vetoes in the last cycle. One could anticipate, unless anything's going to change, and what does change. I was here at a time when leadership really mattered in both the executive and the legislative branches. And it was experienced, seasoned leadership that was able to stay there beyond the term limits, so that it really understood the Nevada political process, and it really understood the Nevadans they were there to serve. We have a greener leadership, we have a more ideologically motivated leadership, and we do not benefit from that. And so one thing that could change the 2025 session would be strong leadership on both the part of the legislature and the governor's office to find that middle ground. They can spend their time and waste their time talking about the things that are not going to happen, or they could identify the half a loaf that they agree on and make it that kind of session going into the 2026 election, but I don't think they will.
When I started my career 20 plus years ago, you know, I was fortunate to start at a time where there was those leaders, you know, Senator Raggio, Senator Dini, and I often heard several times from different people, you know, we're Nevada Democrats and Nevada Republicans, and the national politics or the national landscape didn't play as much in Carson City. I've seen that change. Have you seen that change? The evolution of politics in your 30 years, I'm curious your opinion on how that's evolved.
Well, for both parties now, most of the campaign money comes from outside the state, and that brings a very volatile, distorted influence into the state politics. And the term limits have destroyed the ability for our elected officials to really not only capitalize on their experience, but also then capitalize on their understanding of how our legislative process works. We're a part-time legislature in a rapidly growing state. This is a hard state to govern. Term limits sound like a good idea, but we didn't put term limits on lobbyists or bureaucrats, and they now run. It is not uncommon on the first day of the session to see a freshman drafted into chairing a committee, and about 10 minutes before the session is starting, a lobbyist explaining that freshman how it works. That is not how a democracy is supposed to work. The lobbyists have a very valuable role there, but we used to have the experience. We didn't have to do that. And to change that, we have to have a very conscious conversation with our voters to understand that a lot of these structures that we put in do not advance the democracy. They've allowed a greater distortion of our Nevada democracy.
Fred, thank you. We'll be back just a second for some closing thoughts on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators, from the exotic to the everyday, trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low, and our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way, because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
The
Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Welcome back to an all-new Nevada Newsmakers. Filling in for Sam Shad, I'm Mike Draper. Our guest today is Fred Lokken, a professor of political science at TMCC. Fred, you had mentioned early in the show that you're even seeing it in your students, dissatisfaction or even anger or unhappiness or even apathy in your students. Can you go, I'm curious to hear sort of how, from a young person's mind and what you're seeing in your class, the evolution over the last decade or two of their engagement in politics and political science.
Well, I've taught a long time, and I've sort of seen a real evolution of student engagement. I mean, if we go back historically, individuals like John Kennedy, or more recently, Barack Obama, energized the youth, brought them out in numbers that we don't historically see. But most of our political leadership just does not connect, it does not agendize anything that would inspire or offer them interest or hope. Generally, they are optimistic about their future, but they're very confused about the political system because they don't think it's there to support a future. It's mired, it's distracted, it's negative. But as you use as an example, I had a Guardian reporter come to my classes in 2016, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. I had talked to 2 classes, 63 students, and she asked the question I can't ask: how are you going to vote? In that election, 7 were going to vote for Donald Trump. Nobody was going to vote for Hillary. There were 2 for Stein and 1 for the other. But most of them were not going to vote because it was beneath them to do that. Fast forward, they're hot on it. They were interested in 2024. What I've seen is a reawakening that politics matters. Even at that age, they're understanding it touches their lives. But there was a high level of dissatisfaction with the choices. And there was a real confusion, again, of how we select our issues, which are done so for political safety, because you don't reward politicians in America by telling you the truth. You reward the ones that tell you what you want to hear. And they haven't learned that lesson yet. So it's interesting because the enthusiasm there, but they're very disillusioned by what they see.
You know, I'm going to put you on the spot and do something a little unorthodox. I've got a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 15-year-old at home, and we're in the, full-blown in the college discussion and what to study and what they want to do, and they ask me a lot about my career, and, I've never seemed to interest them. But if I asked you to give me your 60-second elevator pitch on why a young person should study political science, what would that be?
Because it's never mattered more in our 236 years. There are real threats to our way of life, to what we believe in. We have real problems that need solving. My generation screwed up and didn't do a good job. It's left a mess. And it's up to this new generation to step forward, have a passion in their heart for what we stand for as a people, for what quality of life and what we've been able to do to change other lives. This is a chance in your life to make that difference, to provide that leadership, to inspire others. You have to get involved.
I'm going to frame that and show it to all 3 of them. As we look again here, as we're wrapping up with the last couple of minutes, we look at the legislative session in 2025. I'm going to ask you kind of a 2-part question. What issues do you think will be the most prevalent or prominent at the legislative session, and what issues should be the most prevalent and prominent at the legislative session?
Well, obviously the budget and how that gets spent. And it falls back to an ideological division that is going to dominate between the legislature and the governor, I'm afraid. But we still have so many challenges, and we had relatively good news of a growing budget. Although there are storm clouds, if we in fact see a recession in 2025, the signs of that may be coming in by May, and we could really be seeing a different budget. But they have that hole. They've not covered things. They have real differences of opinion over that. So the budget's going to occupy a lot of time. Other issues that are clearly going to bubble up are always our educational system, our healthcare, and how much we fund and who gets access and who doesn't. But what should come is getting Nevada to have a government that matches a state of 3.5 million people. We are using a budget structure that we put in place in 1961 when we had 300,000 people in the state. It doesn't make sense. We need more thoughts about reforming our political process, perhaps getting the money out of it, understanding where the money's coming from, being more transparent. But lobbyists don't want to see that. Elected officials don't want to see that. But we aren't creating a stable future for the state unless we really decide to stop at this moment and stabilize things, get a government that now makes sense for 2025.
We've got about 30 seconds left. I'm going to put you on the spot again. If you could make one change to our political system, either in the state or nationally, what change would you make?
I would shift to limited campaigns and public financing. It would bring a better quality candidate forward, and it would take the money out of the politics, and we'd be able to talk about real issues.
Fred, I've been a guest with you on this show before. It's great to be here and hear from you. I always enjoy hearing your thoughts, so thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
We'll be back on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
The new year is bringing so much fun to Tamarack Casino with cash and free play drawings Thursdays and Saturdays, and $40,000 in grand finale giveaways Thursday, February 27th. Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
We wouldn't steer you wrong with the gold standard of steaks at Joel's Chop House. Indulge in dry-aged steaks, seafood, Wagyu tomahawks, located on the second floor, and great views of the Strip.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
As always, you can watch Nevada Newsmakers 24 hours a day on various platforms, including television, radio, our website, audio and video podcasts, YouTube. You want to find the show, you can find it pretty darn easily. And we cover politics, business, health, and education. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next podcast.